Okay, all right. Has everybody got a copy? Nope. Katie, can you pass that back? Okay, these are very straightforward. Don't panic, it's only one page. It explains exactly what we're expecting you to do in your 20 minutes of confession, year-long confession, your 20 minutes of seance, 20 minutes you can sing for 20 minutes with your GSI. And we really encourage you to work in groups, you're very good at that by now, and to produce beautiful pictures and maps, bring in whatever you think will help you talk about the entire course with your GSIs, beginning with Patricia Hill Collins. And I've given you, I thought, a rather interesting autobiographical account by Patricia Hill Collins of her life. A little bit of her life. She's actually president of the American Sociological Association at this point in time, and she will actually be in San Francisco giving her address to the American Sociological Association on August 12th. What? Something about, 8th or 9th, I can check up, and you can just look on the website. I'm sure you've got websites all in front of you at this moment. Anyway, yes, so she'll be giving the presidential address, and she is a great speaker, though, so if you're interested, you should just go along to the Hilton Hotel and listen to her. You'll have nothing else to do in August anyhow, and you'll really miss social theory by then. You'll feel totally deprived and have separation anxieties, and this will restore your health. Okay, yes, very good. Any questions? Any questions? Your GSIs will be handing out, if they have not already, handing out timesheets for you to schedule for these interviews, discussions, and they'll be held in faculty offices in the department. Any questions?
What's the show and health performance?
Oh, yeah, you didn't know about it?
No.
Well, I guess you'll have to find out very quickly. You're going to tell us about your lives, as you've been telling us every Thursday night. Oh, why should I be privy? I should have a monopoly of knowledge about your lives. We will see what a party means, won't we, Conrad? This will be a democratic party. It will be decided democratically what the GSIs will show and tell, right? Okay, we'll see. Anyway, we have a room at any rate. That's a good beginning. Anything else? Yes, Andy.
I was wondering what the 5-minute video option could or should be.
Could. I don't know what it should be. I don't know what even it could be, but, see what often has happened in the past, people have brought in pictures. Like pictures that I draw are much more beautiful than the ones I draw. Of the whole course, this would be a way to make that more dynamic in a sense, so that you could show how the picture changes over time. You could bring in all sorts of artwork, drawn from art clips. So you could make much more, I suppose, a more dynamic thing than just having one big piece of paper. So that will be fun. And what the idea is that you will then, if you bring something in, that will sort of, in a sense, dominate the conversation. So that will give you the initiative in the conversation, and the GSI will then ask you questions about what you bring in. So no, that will be fun. I don't think anybody's really brought in 5-minute videos before, but you are a generation of video. Everybody's videoing these days, so YouTube people, the YouTube generation. Anyway, so that will be fun. And then actually, if you want, on the 19th or the 18th? 18th. On the 18th, this party I was hoping that we would actually display all your various artworks, because actually what happens is you do them and then you may take them home or you give them to your GSI as a farewell gift, but nobody else sees it. So I thought this would be a moment for everybody to display their artwork of what they saw the year to be. Yes, Anders.
Is what we bring with us and then we evaluate it?
No, what we evaluated what comes out of your mouth. But what comes out of your mouth may be connected to what you bring with you. It's a sort of dialectical interpenetration. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions? Okay, yes, more questions.
At the beginning of last semester you didn't want us to use the word dialectical.
Yeah, I deliberately yes, but what I do and what I say you can do are two different things. It's the first time I've used it. It must be a special occasion. Yes, dialectical. Okay, any other questions? Okie dokie, very good. Alright, summary. Well, for next time, Sienna. Where are you, Sienna? You're not there? Sienna, where are you?
She's walking.
Okay, Conrad, why don't you substitute for Sienna? Can you read this?
Sure. Summary. Ransacking bourgeois. MacKinnon. 4. Marxism and feminism. 5. Work and sexuality. Read Whole MacKinnon. What is relation between sexuality and gender, objectivity and objectification?
Very good.
Consciousness raising.
Right, those are the three. So look at this. I think these three items sort of really will summarize after what we do today, we'll summarize what she has to contribute. The distinction between sexuality and gender, the distinction, a very interesting and important distinction and difficult one, between objectivity and objectification, and the ways in which they are similar also, and consciousness raising. With MacKinnon, as I hope we will see, is a radical, in my view, a radical criticism of Marxism. Much more than the fact that Marxism left out gender. Much more profound and fundamental criticism. Okay, indeed a criticism of a lot of sociology. So we will deal with that. That will begin today, hopefully, and then we will deal with it on Thursday. And the following week, the last week, we will begin with Patricia Hill Collins and cover Patricia Hill Collins' work, which will be used as a way to summarize the entire course. I will give, so that's next week, and on Friday I will give 2 review sessions so that you'll be ready for the following week. Good. Okie dokie. Summary. Any questions? Summary. If you haven't, has everybody got one of these? People came in late. If you want, can get them afterwards. You may need them. Okay. Right. Okay, summary. Alright. Ah, yes, my picture. Yes. My picture, yes. Men in a situation. Okay, oh no, that's not good. I'm really not doing this right. So let's put this up here. Okay, mythologies that men create about the natural, inevitable character of male domination. Men do that because they are, she says, in a situation of subjugation herself. That's what Beauvoir is saying, that men are not in a state of transcendence, but they are themselves, in a sense, trapped in immanence, whether it's in the office, in the workplace, or even capitalists. We saw it in Marx too, that they are driven by the pursuit of profit. They don't really are able to have projects, life projects of their own. Everybody, in capitalism is confined. Nevertheless, there is male domination. Male domination involves a process of what she calls othering. Women become other, subordinate to men. Whoops. My famous picture. Very famous. Okay. Right. So, women are also in a situation. And for her, one situation is the dispersal of women amongst men, their dependence upon men, among men, dependence, material dependence. Yeah. And she also talks about the relation of women to their bodies, in a part that we haven't read. But it's a very ambiguous chapter, and I'll underline the ambiguity in a minute, but there is a sense in which women's relationship to their body is not simply something constructed in their head, but it has a reality, a biological reality of its own. Yes. How much, but it will be a debatable question if we were to interrogate the chapter. It will be a debatable question to what extent she sees that relation of women to their body as something that is forced upon women and created in their heads and in the heads of men, to what extent it actually is a physical reality that is inescapable. Okay, so that's the situation of women, and then there are these 2 types of responses. There is the inauthentic response, and that is the response that in some sense accepts the reality or is oblivious to the reality of gender domination. So there is the idea of invisibility or complicitness. Women are complicit or compliant in the relation of male domination. Women are opportunistic in accepting it and make the best of a bad deal. Women actually seek to imitate men and think of that as a form of transcendence, but it's an illusion. Oops, I can't do that. Okay. Those are 3. There is also the idea of the glorification of men, putting men on a pedestal, or contrariwise bringing them down into the prison of domesticity. These are the ways in which women adapt to the situation of subjugation, which Beauvoir labels as inauthentic, in a sense, denial of the potentiality for self-realization of women. The denial of an authentic response. Now, what is the authentic response? Well, the authentic response for Beauvoir is one in which women are allowed to be fully human beings. They develop themselves through relations with others, with other women and with other men. These are relations of reciprocity. These are the relations that one might think Marx talked about in his understanding of communism. And the idea is that women who enter into authentic relations to extent to which there is what she calls transcendence, as opposed to immanence, stuck in immanence over here, immanence. That to extent that women are in a state of are in a state of transcendence or authentic, so men too are potentially able to move into transcendence. That men's transcendence, men's authentic relationship to the world depends upon the liberation of women. So there is a 2-way relationship here, in which these are reciprocal relations in which men and women, men and men, women and women see each other as subjects and objects, treats them as somewhat different from themselves, but at the same time as individuals with projects of their own, with rich and varied talents and abilities. So this is the idea of authenticity in which, and I'm to repeat, men become actually freed only to the extent that women are freed. However, of course, men are unable to see that their liberation depends upon the liberation of women because they are stuck in these situations of inauthenticity, of immanence. The question is, this state of liberation here, the question is, how on earth does one get to liberation, to emancipation? And this, I suppose, is a little ambiguous in the book, but I am quite convinced that it basically depends upon this reciprocal relations. Liberation depends upon equality. But first and foremost, men and women must be in a relationship of equality. And she says as much when she talks, for example, about the Soviet Union. The promise of the Soviet Union was that women would actually enter the labor force on equal terms to men, and that they would have reproductive rights that would allow them to be free of the burdens of motherhood, and that perhaps there would be co-parenting and co-education and so forth. So that equality between men and women was necessary, was never achieved in the Soviet Union, but that equality would be necessary before the final emancipatory stage, the realm of freedom, of reciprocal relations. So my reading is that she assumes, as she says on page 681, 680, yeah? She says, it is not to be supposed, we talked about it last time, it is not to be supposed, however, that the mere combination of the right to vote and having a job constitutes a complete emancipation. Working today, particularly for women, is not a liberty. It involves a second shift. Only a socialist world would, woman by thou one, attain the other. Only in a socialist world would entry into the workplace in the realm of necessity, those limited number of hours, permit that realm of freedom. The reciprocal relations between men and women. And she imagines all sorts of multiple, unheard of, unimagined relations between men and women. It's not the dissolution of gender, not the dissolution, but it's multiplication, pluralization, and involving reciprocal relations between men and women. Now, however, and this is a sort of, there are two ambiguous moments in this claim. One moment is that she talks about in the previous chapter that I didn't have you read because we don't have time, but you should read if you possibly can, on the independent woman. There she says having access to the labour market is not sufficient for freedom, not at all, quite the opposite, that then women for the most part in the working class are doubly subordinated at work and at home. However, independent woman insofar as it means a woman who is independently wealthy, she was not independently wealthy, she didn't inherit wealth, but nevertheless she was not dependent upon wage labour work, she lived on writing, on editing, and sometimes teaching. She argues that the independent woman has the possibility of establishing some sort of equal relations with men, but they're never truly emancipatory, she says. So independent woman is on the way to authenticity. Independent woman provides the conditions of the possibility of a limited form of authenticity under capitalism. And there is a question of whether the struggle for equality under capitalism may simultaneously produce egalitarian and emancipated relations between men and women, or whether it's a stage-like process in which first you have equality, socialism, and then you have freedom. Yes, and that's all undisclosed in this book. I believe, personally, that she was so embedded in Marxist thinking at the time, immediately after the Second World War, that she assumed that first you must have a socialist revolution, and then, and only then, can one have gender emancipation. But that socialist revolution was not a sufficient, only a necessary condition for freedom. Okay. Whoa. Any questions on that? Simeon.
You said there was two endings.
Very good. I forgot the second. Yes, the first ambiguity was the independent woman. What do you think the second one was?
Well, I thought it was a two-stage thing, as far as socialism first and then women's liberation, or whether it was all the same fight.
Yeah, that's right. That's a third. That's right. No, I had something else in mind. Okay. What did I have in mind? What have I left off the picture here that I talked about before? Yes, lesbian. So lesbian relations, I mean, she is, as I cannot emphasize this too strongly, how way ahead of her time she was, and you should, is that lesbian chapter in your reader? Did I put it in? Yes. So it's a very interesting, like the chapter on the body, so ambiguous. Whether in fact lesbian relations can be though of an emancipated character, or whether lesbian sexuality is of a second class to heterosexuality. I think she sort of muddles her way through that. I don't think she has really figured that one out. And That's my impression from reading that. Of course, later on, lesbianism becomes a political project of the feminist movement. A feminist movement that is, in a sense, attacking male domination, patriarchy, and lesbianism becomes